Hello, Gaston County. Welcome to episode number 118. We should have been recording beforehand. So here's some of that, your comedy there, Naomi. Episode 118 of Gaston's Great, a podcast highlighting some of the great things happening in and around Gaston County. I'm your host, Stephen Long, and we are coming to you once again from the worldwide headquarters of GSM Services. We simply believe in discussing more of the reasons why Gaston's great. We are highlighting another great organization this week as we highlight the Alzheimer's Association, and specifically, we probably will talk about the Walk to End Alzheimer's for Gaston, Lincoln, and Cleveland counties. We have Brittany Blain and Christine John Fuller with us today. Did I pronounce that right? I didn't.
You did.
Also, I forgot to ask, make sure I get these intros right, so y'all can correct me if I get these wrong. I normally do that beforehand. But Brittany is the manager of the Walk to End Alzheimer's for our area, along with a few other regions.
That's
got correct?
Mm-hmm.
And Christine is the VP of Communications for the organization.
That's correct, here in North Carolina.
North Carolina. Okay, great. Yeah, I guess I should have. We're really talking about the Alzheimer's Association of Chapter of North Carolina. Is that the correct?
Well, we actually have two chapters here. We have a Western Carolina chapter and an Eastern North Carolina. So we work kind of as one. So I serve the entire state.
Understood.
We work with colleagues across the state. So like the walks that Brittany takes care of, there's actually 17 of those in North Carolina.
Okay. So you can see all that great research I did beforehand.
Yep.
Brittany and Christine, it's great to have you on, and welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.
I told
Excited.
you how professional this was, right? Got you prepared beforehand. So we're going to get right to it like we normally do. But the first question I like to ask, and maybe I'll just start with you, Brittany, just because you're closest.
Sure.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, anything you'd like to share before we get into some specifics about the organization.
Sure, absolutely. Well, I started with the Alzheimer's Association back in October of 2021. So I've been there about 2.5 years now. It was a career change for me. This was my first time coming over to the nonprofit world, which I absolutely love, and am so happy to be in my role as walk manager.
Very good. Christine, what about you?
So I have been lucky to be a part of the organization. Actually, my anniversary, I think, is next month, so 7 years.
Okay, wow.
But deeply involved with the organization long before that. I was a teenage caregiver for my grandmother who lived with the disease, and it has been an amazing ride. I've been in nonprofit for 20 plus years. I don't know if I want to say that out loud, but mostly in health and human services. So just very lucky to be a part of an amazing cause.
So you started in the nonprofit world when you were 12?
Pretty much, yes. You're right. Thank you for that.
All right, you're very welcome. So appreciate that. I appreciate you sharing a little bit about yourself and how you got involved and how long with the organization. So listen, we're going to get right into it. So I'll probably throw questions out that are going to be for both of you, or I might ask specifically, and I think you may be the most prepared guests we've ever had on the Gaston's Great podcast because of some information you sent beforehand, which is really good. And I learned a little bit when I read through it, and we'll get into all that. But can you maybe just start with you, Brittany? What can you tell us about the mission of the organization? What's the purpose? What are you trying just to accomplish? Weekly, daily, on whatever time frame, but just in general, I think most people have probably heard about the Alzheimer's Association, but they might not know specifics of initiatives, and they might not know about the walk, which we're going to make that a big deal here in Gaston County this year.
Yes, we are.
Okay. So I'll just throw it out for both of you.
Yeah, well, our mission is to end Alzheimer's disease. That's our number one goal that we're working towards here. We have pillars in our organization, and I can bump that over to Christine to share a little bit more about our different pillars. And I specifically focus on the walk to end Alzheimer's and raising funds and awareness through the walk that go back to the local community with our hotline number that is available 24/7 and through our care and support programs in the area.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that the key thing that we always love for people to understand is that we've got some really important focuses. So first and foremost, as she mentioned, we want to see an end to Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia. And in that pursuit of the research that goes behind that locally, globally, we are also taking care of families every single day that are impacted by the disease. So that is individuals calling that helpline at 2 a.m. when they're at wit's end about something going on, to the programming that we do here right in Gaston County for people to get vetted information about the disease or guidance on how to navigate caregiving. We're every single day we are taking care of people in our own backyards.
Okay, so I've also learned over the last couple of years because of my own family's experience. It's one of these situations where I've been involved with a lot of things over the community the last 25 years or so, and I knew about the Alzheimer's Association, but said, maybe I won't ever have to deal with that. Well, guess what,
Mm-hmm.
right? I've also learned so many families. I'm not sure it's as prevalent as, say, cancer, but it feels like it. I know I'm in Rotary, and we had a presentation. I think you and I briefly talked about the CART fund that Rotary is involved with. It's a related organization, but not obviously not doing the amount of work and as big an organization as you guys are associated with. But the speaker asked a question about if you've been impacted in your family by Alzheimer's. Raise your hand. It was pretty much 100%. I mean, and so it is prevalent. It's difficult, and so again, it's become something important to me and my family because of our dealing with a family member and their current circumstance. I'm not sure how to word that because we're kind of novices at this, but so I appreciate the mission, appreciate what you're trying to do. Can you talk about, maybe the walk is maybe the most important one for us to talk about, but can you talk about maybe some of the initiatives, for lack of a better word, or just anywhere you want to go with, make sure our listeners get a good feel for everything you guys are doing.
Yeah, I'll jump in and I'll share a little bit about to expand upon what I mentioned before, what those numbers look like here, how we kind of approach that and take care of folks, and then how that is funded by our largest campaign, which is Walk to End Alzheimer's. So Brittany can pick up there, but I think the key piece for people to understand is this prevalence. It is a growing health crisis,
right?
Plain and simple. And so when we look at the numbers, you're talking about more than 6 million individuals across the nation. In North Carolina, that is 180,000 individuals that are estimated to be living with the disease. And on top of that, we anticipate in the next few years that could be as high as 210,000. In fact, these numbers, we're going to get new numbers in March that may drastically change what we know those numbers to be. And then when we kind of look at how things are here locally, if we look at that 65 plus population, the percentage of Alzheimer's prevalence rate in Gaston County is 11.11, Cleveland, which is nearby, is 11.1, and Lincoln County is 9.9. So there's a large percent of individuals that are impacted by the disease in doing that. And so what we are always working to do is, one, educate people on the prevalence and the understanding. You mentioned in a room, people raise their hand. I always kind of do the thing, raise your hand if you have a brain. And, it depends on the day maybe, right? But the truth of the matter is, if you have a brain, you have the risk of developing Alzheimer's, even if you haven't had it in your family. And so it's not just for those of us that have it in our family, but it really is for our entire community and how it impacts that. As an employer, your employees that have loved ones that are living with the disease, as someone who works in a public service in which they're interacting with people with dementia, how are we training first responders to be able to interact with them? So it's full community work to make sure that we are approaching this disease from all sides of it. So that's what we do every single day in the pieces that we do that make it super critical for us to have a way to move that needle. And that's where something like Walk to End Alzheimer's comes in. And she can talk about not just the fundraising aspect, but the awareness aspect as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So like you said, I do often find when you ask people if they've been touched by Alzheimer's disease and go into a room, pretty much the whole room raises their hand, which is heartbreaking.
They might not have a family member, but they know someone.
Yeah, it
for
could
sure.
be a neighbor or a church member or someone, absolutely. So the Walk to End Alzheimer's is the world's largest event to raise awareness and funds for Alzheimer's care, support, and research. This past fall, actually, we had a record-breaking year in fundraising with the Walk to End Alzheimer's. We raised just a little over $87,000, which is incredible. to have that support from the local community, and I'm just so appreciative.
And just to be
of
clear,
that.
we're speaking about the Gaston, Lincoln, and Cleveland County walk, correct?
Yes, absolutely. Yep, the Gaston.
And we're going to
Cleveland,
crush that this year, by the way.
Oh, we're going to exceed our
that.
goal. I definitely know we are. And I'm so excited to have you on board as our executive event chair of the Walk to End Alzheimer's for the area.
Did I actually say yes and commit to that? I don't remember.
You did. I think you submitted a form and clicked and checked the box.
I may have. All right. So again, do you have something that I know our listeners like to hear? And this may not be a fair question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Because I know my personal experience. Do you have any anecdotal stories or anything where you look back, whether it's just on the fundraising side or where you've had the opportunity to see a family that was positively impacted? It's hard for me to, frankly, use that word. I mean, it's positive and Alzheimer's together, just because of maybe it's just my personal experience but families don't know what they don't know until they get in that situation. They don't know where to go. They don't know where to find help, and you deal with things that you just never thought of, right? Imagine, especially on the because I'm seeing it both from the caregiver side and the individual patient side. I'm not sure that's the right word, but so do you have anything that that comes to mind there, or is that an unfair question?
No. I actually think it is truly in line with the experience that most families have. So same thing with my family. We had absolutely no clue the association existed, and so we navigated it on our own. And one of the most heartbreaking things as staff for us to hear is when we meet someone, they're like, I wish I had known about your support earlier, because there is so much that we can help with in them realizing that they're not alone. So, that's everything from, you're navigating a diagnosis and you need support in figuring out care options for your loved one. And so we can do a care consultation to walk you through, the types of questions you need to be asking to determine what's the right care options for your family. Or if it's even before diagnosis, identifying those symptoms so you have an understanding of what to be asking a doctor for the purposes of being diagnosed. But we hear every single day from individuals that are like, I'm so grateful that someone handed me a card with your number on it. I saw somebody had a bracelet with an 800 number. I called and I found out that there was a support group right here in my county that I was able to go to be able to meet caregivers who are going through the same thing. Or someone who says, I didn't realize, that what we were going through is part of the middle stages of the disease. Because here's the thing, as many of you know, it's not just about memory loss, but as the disease progresses, we're talking about behavioral changes. We're talking about loss of the ability for them to care for themselves, self-care, toileting. These aren't great and fun things to talk about, but they're the reality of this disease when, someone can live for years. Caregiving for Alzheimer's can be years longer and far more in depth than other caregiving roles because of the disease itself.
Is it fair to say, too, that it's such an individual thing? I mean, it affects or impacts one person so differently than the next person. Like our experience has not been at all where it's that anger or lashing out or anything that you hear about. We haven't dealt with anything like that, but I've seen and know of those type of examples where it is just the personality just almost changes completely, and just imagine how difficult that could be on the family and caregivers, and then the level of care at different facilities, making the decision to try to care for somebody at home versus other options. I mean, and there's, frankly, it's just that there's some guilt there, I think, for the caregivers, or can be as well, just because it can be such a. I will avoid using the word burden because I don't like that word for lots of different reasons. I mean, frankly, family that's what you're supposed to do, in my opinion, but it's just unique, and and so different. Is that kind of your experience as well? It's just, gosh, everywhere every it's almost like custom care on every situation.
Yeah, I would say that every single diagnosis looks completely different, and it's like you said, it's not the same with every person going through it, and the journey looks very different for each family.
Is there enough data out there, and because I'm totally ignorant of this, about typical ages when you start to see it? Is the ages where, is it younger now? Is that because of society, or is it we're just getting better at diagnosing it, or is there, that was just a question, sorry, that just came up out of the blue for me.
No, I think it's a good question. And what I would say is it's kind of all of the above, right?
Okay.
You have, we have a population that's aging in. That's an important piece of it. 2, we have better detection. So that is a piece of it. People are, we're removing the stigma of the disease. So more people are talking about it. More people are asking about it. I have a friend, Pat, he lost his wife to the disease. She was diagnosed at 51 and she died weeks before her 60th birthday. She had been in a picture of health. However, because she had been a picture of health physically, her body lasted for 9 years, but she was in the state of an infancy from probably about a year and a half in. And so it really is an important thing to know that there are individuals in that kind of what we call younger onset, under the age of 65, that are diagnosed. And he will tell you to this day, it was his 16-year-old daughter that kept saying, I'm telling you, mom has Alzheimer's, you need to get her checked out. And he kept thinking, no, it's depression, maybe there's something in the marriage, something else is going on. And she kept saying, I'm telling you, she has dementia, you have to get her checked out.
Does it often take someone outside, say if it's a husband and wife or a partnership, whatever, do you find that sometimes it might take somebody with a different viewpoint? Sorry, I hit this, by the way, like every episode, and create all kinds of background noise. When I don't know, denial is the right word either, but do you see some of that as well, when it might take a child or a neighbor or another family member to say, hey, something's going on here, because maybe this, because I would not want to admit that or go there. I don't want to deal with that.
I think it's like everything else. There might be denial about other things, other health conditions in our lives too, right? Like,
oh, sure,
how long have we walked around with a bad hip and don't get it checked out? And, so some of that is, but sometimes it's when you live with it every single day, the changes are incremental, and you don't notice it as much as someone who comes in and is there and sees it as an outside observer. So it's a mixture, from that standpoint. And it's why we really encourage people, especially you're going to be around somebody during the holidays or for an extended period of time on a vacation. That's when you might see things that you wouldn't necessarily see on a, during a 5-minute phone conversation or over Zoom if you live somewhere else, or in a short visit.
Yeah, like that. Gosh, I compare it to the not seeing my college roommates' kids for a couple of years, and then you're like, to them it's nothing's changed hardly, right, over that 2 or 3 year period. And then they go from age 6 to 9. I'm like, what in the world, happened to this little kid, So yeah, when you're in the middle of it, it is much harder to see those incremental changes. It doesn't seem as dramatic when it's you're going through that day to day. So specifically about talking about the walk. How long has there been a Gaston County, Cleveland, Lincoln County walk? Do you know that?
That is an excellent question. To my knowledge,
it's one I just threw on you out of the blue. Yes.
No, I believe it's been 11 years.
Okay.
Don't look at me. I don't know.
To my knowledge, I know we've been here for at least 11 years. Okay. And we've been at Rotary Centennial Pavilion up until last year. So, yep. Yeah,
I think that when I said at the beginning, I think a lot of people have heard maybe of the Alzheimer's Association, but I bet there's people who don't realize there's local walks and a local focus sometimes, because even though we are even though Charlotte is the gateway to Gastonia, I try to throw that in every episode when I can. I think a lot of people still associate it's only Charlotte,
right?
Even the areas around there. So when I first heard about it and got involved, I think my wife originally kind of got involved and looked into it. I was thrilled to see that that there is a local focus for here in our area. So this is a question for both of you. Maybe you've been you've obviously, Christine, you've been involved a little longer, but Brittany, you as well. Is there something that stands out you're most proud of accomplishing or seeing happen during your time with the organization?
Yeah, I am most proud of watching personally this Gaston, Cleveland, Lincoln walk grow.
Okay.
When I started in 2021, well, we didn't have the walk in person, so we had it in 2022
because of that word we don't say around
we don't
here
go
anymore.
back. We don't go back to that. And we had we had around 240 participants in 2022, and to see the growth of that happen from 2022 to 2023 and have the largest ever participation and support from the community was just really, I'm just amazed by it and just appreciate all that.
Very good. Christine, how would you answer that question?
You know, I'll take the kind of progress standpoint of that and tell you that all the funds that we raise through these walks have supported and allowed us to enter what we call the era of treatment. And so this past July, we actually had our first treatment that was fully traditionally approved by the FDA that is a disease-modifying treatment. So unlike other treatments that are, they're working on a symptom or something of the sort, these are treatments that literally in the earliest stages of the disease can slow the progression of the disease.
Wow. Okay.
So this is the future of where we're going. This is the opportunity for us to make real change and give people more time with their loved ones. And that has happened literally just in the last couple of years. So it's a very, very exciting time to be a part of that and to see that come to fruition.
All right, that's a great point. I appreciate you bringing it up because I had mentally made a note to ask about treatments and kind of where that's going. And, of course, I didn't write it down. So if you hadn't brought it up, I wouldn't have got there. I would have remembered about 6 o'clock tonight. Why didn't I ask that question about treatment? Do you know in the world of medical research, where does the money go into research, say, for Alzheimer's stand relative to like cancer or do you have any idea? I know the reason I bring this up is years ago, I remember I'm a big NC State guy, right? So I was a huge Jim Valvano fan, and I was a student there when he was still a coach there. And when the V Foundation was created, I remember a lot of information out there about the lack of funding at the time, but this was in the early 90s. So lack of funding at the time, there was a lot of research. I think even AIDS may have been on the top of that list at the time. And, of course, that shifted, obviously. And then it seems to me that there's these cycles of awareness goes on. But do you have any idea where that stands? Or, again, another question that I'm totally unprepared for because I just made it up.
Well, I will say this. I don't off the top of my head know the specifics of where we rank in research funding, say like through the NIH or anything against some of those others currently. What I can tell you is in the last 10 years plus, we have seen a dramatic increase from nominal funding for research for Alzheimer's to literally at this point, we're talking about $360 million being invested in 1,000 best-in-class studies in, I think, 53 countries. So what has happened, if we have actually have a chart, if I was able to show it to you, that talks about what we've petitioned and how much money we have gained in NIH funding just in the last decade plus. And it is monumental because there is a true understanding of the fact that if we don't address this crisis, we are going to have not only a health crisis, but a financial crisis on our hands because of the devastation of this disease on communities, on our healthcare system in a million different ways. So we're very lucky that we have worked with our community to petition and ask our elected officials to support and continue to focus on that. Just this past year, the Alzheimer's Association actually was very proud to announce that we made a $100 million investment in research in a single year this past year. That's huge. And a lot of those are right in our backyard. We've got amazing research institutions in at Wake Forest, in the Triangle area.
I appreciate you saying Triangle, not specifically saying if it might be Duke or UNC.
There you go. That's right. I'm smart. I'm going to stay out of that competition there. But truthfully, we are very, very lucky here in our own backyard because of those investments.
Okay. So, I knew that there had been a big increase just because of a little bit that I've read and seen. And it's probably, it may be fair to say, too, that just in general, because of the baby boomer population getting, my parents are baby boomers, getting up in that age, that there's just, again, we're just seeing more and more of that. I would assume across the board, not just with Alzheimer's, but that's probably one of the driving factors there. So, if you had to say today, what is the greatest need? I'm hoping that there's going to be some business owners that I know are regular listeners to this, just because, that may not be involved with the walk or the Alzheimer's Association in general. What is the greatest need that we have here locally? Is it just getting more businesses involved? Is it awareness? Is it straight up donations? What would you say, Brittany, is the biggest need for our listeners out there who are going to today commit to something to help?
Sure, that's a great question. So for the walk, sponsorships are always a great way to support the walk. We also have other ways. A company, if they're not interested in sponsoring, can also create a company team, come out on walk day wearing their company t-shirts and show their local support to the community. I think it's always very powerful when your company comes out in the same t-shirt and we see like, wow, GSM is all here today, and they're
this
walking.
Obnoxious purple shirt that I have on today.
I love the shirt. It's perfect for today's episode. But it's great, and when we do media stories and pictures, it's always wonderful to have the support of local companies as well. I also think there's an opportunity to spread awareness too. Like you said before, you weren't familiar that there was a walk here.
Correct.
So I also think if people have heard of the walk, they may not know that the funds from the walk go back to support research and programs happening locally in this area. So I think really awareness is a big portion of it too.
Okay, very good. All right, so I'm going to ask this question. Remember, this is a podcast specifically about Gaston County, but I'm going to assume, and this is probably an unfair question, I'm assuming you both live in Charlotte?
Oh, we don't talk about that on the air, on the podcast.
Oh yeah, I'm asking anyway.
We live just right down the road.
Oh, that is a great politically correct answer.
Do I get bonus if my son just moved to Gaston County?
Absolutely, yes. Yes. So you have nothing to add to that, do you?
I do not live in Charlotte.
So why? Well, again, you're over in charge of the walk and for our area. Brittany, and you've already shared. Listen, you've already shared a lot of reasons. Answer to this question, I'm going to ask anyway. So, why is Gaston County better? Why are the communities in general better because of the walk and the work that the Alzheimer's Association does?
The communities. Well, first of all, the community here is amazing.
Good recovery.
The support in this community, I feel it like no other, like it's different than anywhere else that I spend time. You can feel the close-knit relationships, and it's really all about community here, which I absolutely love. And Christine, do you want to take the second part?
Yeah, I mean, I think that this entire community embraces the idea of partnership. And, she talked about sponsors and company teams and different things like that. But, we're going in to work with partners so that there's local resources for individuals that are living in this area. So when you go to walk, you're going to see and meet individuals that actually have resources for people that are impacted by dementia. We have a colleague that actually is in this area, and she works with her base of volunteers to be able to go in and deliver educational information on Alzheimer's disease inside of companies, so they have an understanding of what their colleagues are going through. Maybe it's an alls in the workplace type of explanation. but this area has always embraced the idea of partnership and cross collaboration, which is what makes what we do so important. If it wasn't for partnerships, we couldn't do what we do, and it helps us have boots on the ground everywhere.
Yeah, there's no question that if I've learned anything in my 53 years and 25 plus years in the community and trying to run a business is everything that is accomplished worthwhile is collaboration and partnerships, and it's never one person. Now, I think there's a situation where one person might have an idea that starts something or starts an organization, but it's never one individual who actually gets anything done. So before we finish, we'll make sure that we give you a moment to share how our listeners can learn more about the organization, get involved or whatever. But is there anything I haven't asked that I should have asked, or anything that we haven't shared that we want to make sure our listeners become aware of?
Yeah, I'd love to share the walk date for this year.
Okay, so you go right ahead.
We will be walking on Saturday, October 5th at Rotary Centennial Pavilion. Check-in begins that day at 9, followed by our opening ceremony, and then the walk will immediately start after that. So save the date. Okay. And come out and support the local walk. And
for those of you who wonder, it literally is a walk. It's I guess it's typically either like a 1 mile or 2 mile walk is what I know that's what it's been, because I've participated the last couple of years, and so it's great, and the weather is always good. It never rains on the walk, right?
We're putting good vibes out there this year right now.
Yeah,
it's going to be a beautiful fall day. There is a 1 mile option and a 2 mile walk option. And to learn more about that, you can visit alz.org/walk and type in your zip code, and you can pull up the Gaston, Cleveland, Lincoln walk.
Okay, very good. So again, we'll touch on that maybe again before we leave. But even though you guys live close to here, this is a podcast about Gaston County, and we have these questions that we typically ask that are Gaston County related questions. So we're ready. I'm going to make you endure these, but I might just make them up as I go. So this is going to be I make up a name every week. This is going to be the purple speed round of questions.
I love it.
Okay. So have either one of you ever been to Tony's Ice Cream?
Yes.
You have?
Absolutely. You can't. I can't spend one day a week here, 1 or 2 days a week here, and not go to Tony's.
Well, then what is your favorite Tony's ice cream flavor?
Chocolate milkshake.
Chocolate milkshake. That's questionable, because anybody could say that, but that's my favorite too, by the way.
No lid.
Yeah, you can't. If you do it right, it's too much to put a lid on, right? It is. So, Christine, what about you? Favorite ice cream flavor in general?
I am a former Baskin-Robbins employee from back in the day, so I was a super scooper.
Okay.
So I will tell you chocolate and peanut butter in any capacity, but it has to be more chocolate ice cream and like peanut butter in it. So I can tell
just a hint of peanut butter.
Oh, no. I like a lot of peanut butter. I just don't like peanut butter ice cream. But I'm going to tell you, I'm a huge foodie, and I have heard all about Tony's for years, and I am very bummed I have never been. I have actually been by at times where, I didn't realize they weren't open, so, please know that it's only because of scheduling that I haven't been.
We need to take a field trip there, too.
Yeah, I like this idea.
Well, today, just as a reference, it's between here and Charlotte. Just as a reference, I'm just saying. How about, this is a question I normally ask, is Sundrop or Cheerwine or any other type of specialty soda? Is soda the right word? Is that what people call it these days? I just say Coke or whatever. Sorry.
So Cheerwine all the way. And fun fact, I had Cheerwine when I got married in my welcome bags to all of my out-of-town visitors. They got Cheerwine.
Really?
Yes.
Just because it's a North Carolina thing or Salisbury thing? Or
because it's local, and I want them to know all about Cheerwine.
Excellent.
Cheerwine. And anybody's doing a collaboration with Cheerwine and is making donuts or other things with it, I am right in line.
Yeah, I have to admit I've had some good, is it like Cheerwine pound cake maybe?
Ooh. Cheerwine float is also good. Mm-hmm.
Some good stuff. I'm not going to clarify this one, but I'll just say favorite local restaurant.
Cherub's Cafe. I love the mission. So we meet there for meetings a lot, and I love to be able to
Holy Angels is a great organization.
Yeah, to be a patron of something that is also giving back to the community. So and they have great food.
Good answer. And she jumped in first, so you have to follow that one.
That is a good one. Web Custom Kitchen.
Web is great.
I enjoy eating there. Also, I spend a lot of time doing coffee shop meetings, so I love Gilmore's coffee shop down the road too.
Yeah, I'm old enough that I actually saw a movie at Web Theater when it was long before it was a restaurant.
Wow.
I saw Rocky. Probably before y'all were born.
No.
I guarantee.
Guarantee for you, for sure.
Well, I mean, she's only 30. Christine's only 30. According, she started when she was 12.
Right.
In the nonprofit world. Mm-hmm. So, UNC Duke or NC State?
You know what? This question, it gets me, and I have to answer this, right?
There's only one correct answer, by the way.
Well, I'm going to have to go with, so my husband's always been a Duke supporter, and our CEO is a Duke supporter, so that earns me some brownie points, right?
Give me something. Yeah, you got to want for that. It doesn't get you any brownie points in this room. It might get you some brownie points through the association in your career, so that's probably important.
Okay.
So you're going with Duke just to make sure. Okay.
I'm going to think about changing my answer.
No. Mm-hmm. Christine?
Well, mine's not going to be any better because I'm a University of Georgia grad. Okay. So I bleed red and black. However, my son just did graduate from UNCC, so I would pick UNC of the group.
Well, you can throw in a substitute. I just don't typically ask that, especially personal or kids. That's an acceptable answer. Mm-hmm. It's not the correct answer, but it's an acceptable answer.
Well, I'll tell you, our CEO, she actually does a fundraising contest for the Alzheimer's Association called Which Blue is Better, and you vote based on which color, UNC or Duke, is your favorite, and then that's to see who wins, and she raises thousands of dollars.
What if the answer is neither? What if the answer is red?
I think some people really just put money in the pocket to beat someone else.
That's acceptable when it's for a good cause, and I'll leave it at that. But red is the only acceptable answer, which may tell you what the only acceptable answer to that question is. So, Christine, I'll stay with you. What is something very few people know about you?
Well, I once sang the national anthem at a Major League Baseball game.
Do you remember the game?
Oh, no. I just remember they were stringent on the fact, and it wasn't just me, it was with a choir, but they were very stringent. It was at an Atlanta Braves game.
Okay.
And
gotcha.
They were very serious about not stepping on the chalk line. Like they were like, we will throw you out if you touch it. So I remember being terrified about that and not about the crowd.
Oh, that's funny. That's good.
I did not know this about you.
So, Brittany, do you have an answer to that question?
Same question, yes. So I used to hold the record for pull-ups all the way up until 9th grade. Even I could beat all the boys with 46 pull-ups.
And this was where? Your school or
at high school? Mm-hmm. Well, not high school. Sorry, whatever. Middle school, whatever you call it. Up until that point, I held the record.
You could do 46 pull-ups.
I could then. I cannot now.
Holy moly! I can't do 5 now.
Oh, I can't do 5 now.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. I'm stunned.
Yeah, I mean,
I've never done.
Watch out.
I've never even seen 46 pull-ups. I don't think I've done 46 pull-ups in a year. Much less at one time. Wow. Okay, then. I'm almost at a loss for words because I know how difficult that is.
I cannot do it anymore. So this was a long time ago.
Christine, what about a book or something, article, blog you follow, something that you might recommend to our listeners?
I mean, I really like true crime, so I don't know if I should be like encouraging other folks to be obsessed with it as well.
My wife and my daughters are big fans of like true crime podcasts and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, no, that's legit.
It happens. But I will say this, book-wise, Anne Lamott, most amazing author in the world. Very short, because I have a short attention span, so they're easy reads for a weekend or a beach trip or anything like that. And she does a great job of reminding you about the world and your place in it. So,
okay, very good. You have anything to add to that?
I am in a book club.
Okay. Nice.
So similar to that, it's a little true crime mystery. So just finished the book First Lie Wins, which was very good. I highly recommend if you're looking for a good page turner.
Was that about politics?
It's
Just
about.
kidding. First Lie Wins. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's about.
Unfortunately, for me, sometimes that's what politics feels like. Maybe it's the best or biggest lie wins in politics. Mm-hmm. Sorry, that's religion and politics are two topics I said we're not going to talk about on our podcast. Sorry.
I do love a good Wisdom of the Bullfrog. That's a good one too. I love
Admiral McCraven.
Mm-hmm.
So my leadership study group on Sunday mornings, we just finished. Well, it was 2 books ago, but I have a group that I do. We do some type of book study. It's typically leadership stuff, and I'm a huge fan of his.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
We just did the Hero Code as well.
Okay.
Of his, and I'm a big Make Your Bed guy fan as well. We did that book as well. He's got 3 related books, and
I'll
they're
have
all.
to add those to my list.
I mean, I'll just. He's got another great book called Sea Stories.
Okay.
It's about his time. It's more military based of everything that he was involved with. But so if you're interested in that, but they're all related and they're really good.
Interesting.
Stuff. But McCraven's terrific. Yeah.
Okay. It was actually Angie Sanders.
Yeah.
She recommended it to me.
Okay. Yeah.
One day and said I had to read that. So.
Yeah, I've shared that book with. There's a couple of younger guys that I mentor in different organizations. I've shared that book with them. So again, that's terrific. I appreciate you sharing that one. In fact, that's been on my list. I think I've shared on here before. I do a book thing at the end as well, which if you've heard any episodes, sometimes they're good, sometimes they're not so good. But so yes, I appreciate that because I think it's I'm a big reader, and this day and time it might not be a book, it might be a blog or an article or a podcast that some people might follow. But I'm always wanting to give our listeners something maybe new that they can look into. So before we finish up, I love this question. I think I say that every episode. Don't I? It's boring to say that every time. Sorry. So, Brittany, throw this one to you first. Knowing what you know now, what advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
Yeah, this is actually an easy one.
Was that like 1 year ago?
No. Gosh, I have my 20-year high school reunion this year, so.
Really?
I have some wisdom.
Frankly, that's another stunner, but okay.
So I would say, don't worry about the money. Take the risks and take the opportunity and do that, because it's not. I don't often regret the things that I did. I regret the things that I didn't do. Yeah. And you don't ever get that time or those years back. So do it while you can. That's
a pretty good quote. Have you ever published that one about regretting not the things you did do, but the things you didn't do?
No, that's a famous quote from someone else.
Well, I know, but I was going to give you credit for it. But you worded it differently, so I mean, you paraphrased it, which gives you credit, right?
True.
That's a good one. I wish I could remember. I think that was Mark Twain, but I'm not sure. Everybody here knows it gets sick of me too. I'm a big quote guy. I think it was Mark Twain. But anyway,
we're gonna have to look that up to confirm.
Yes. Matter of fact, I've got a book in my office. I can look it up. Sorry, Christine. How would you answer that question?
You mean other than don't wear that shirt with those pants, which probably could have been a theme?
Maybe I'm looking for a little more depth.
Yeah, I thought you might be. I would honestly tell myself to take your PTO, take the vacations. The rest will still be there when you get back.
That's a good point too, though. I mean, that and your point about the clothes, right? The things that maybe we thought were important at 20 just weren't. Yeah. I mean, the things I thought were a big deal then, I look back now and say, what was I thinking? How could I have stressed over things that really just weren't important? And here we are talking about something that is kind of important, right? More so than the things I was concerned about at 20. So listen, this has really been good. I appreciate you guys' time. I appreciate all the work you do. So I know we've already shared it, but I'm going to ask you to do it again if you don't mind, Brittany. Just maybe reiterate the dates and the website, anywhere anybody can go to find information about your organization and specifically the walk that's coming up?
Sure. So we have the Walk to End Alzheimer's on Saturday, October 5th at Rotary Centennial Pavilion with check-in starting at 9 a.m. You can find out more information by visiting alz.org/walk. Also want to give a shout out to our hotline number. If you need to utilize this number, please do. It's available 24/7, and we all know crisis happens not during 9 to 5, but at 3 o'clock in the morning. So 800-272-3900. And want to give a shout out too to GSM Services. Thank y'all so much for being such great partners and for sponsoring the past few years. Hopefully you'll be joining us this year. And if your company is looking for more organization, please feel free to reach out to Stephen as well.
Sure. So before I finish with my my book recommendation, and excuse me, my quote from the week, I would just reiterate what Brittany said. We have gotten involved for lots of different reasons. First of all, just because it's a good organization and they're doing good work. Those are the kind of things that we look for first when we make decisions on supporting organizations. We have some team members here. Throw a shout out to Kim Myers, one of our team members, who is all about the association. I'm sure she will be leading our team again this year, like she has in the past.
Can I echo on that? Kim is fantastic. She was a go-getter on the team and a big part of the committee, and she walked in this morning, and I was so excited to see see her. So.
I mean, there's those commercials out there now that talk about calling people a rock star, and you're not supposed to unless they're a really rock star. I don't know if you've seen those, but she's a rock star when it comes to this kind of stuff. And I don't think I've specifically talked to her yet, but I shouldn't assume, but I'm assuming that she will do that here again. And and I've gotten more involved because of a personal family connection to this disease, and so it just hits home, right, when your family or friend or anything that you might be experiencing personally. That's why I've agreed to be. I'm not even sure what is my actual title related to this executive committee. So,
well, I mean, your title is executive event chair, but we can come up with a new term if that would work better. So
like the grand poobah of the
walk. I almost just said that.
I love
that's it.
So I'll get a hat, like a big hat. It'll be the grand poobah hat, and I'll have a director's chair, and I'll just tell people what to do. Is that what I do around here all day? Not really. But my point is, it brings up another good point too about organizations like, in my opinion, like the Alzheimer's Association. Brittany asked, and you do, that's what's required. You have to go ask people. And sometimes, I'm sure, like some of the things I'm involved with, I've heard a lot of no's in organizations I've been involved with, and I'm sure she has as well. But the things that I've been involved with, most of the time, it's because somebody asked. And so, we're kind of asking. I'm kind of asking this too. I mean, I also think it's fair to say we could use a little more involvement from Cleveland and Lincoln counties. So if there's somebody out there from those two areas, or if you're a business owner or someone has a friend that's this disease has touched or might be interested, we've got really great support in Gaston County, but we're going to continue to grow that. But we would like to see a little more involvement from the other two counties that we are officially involved with this particular walk. So, but again, I'm looking forward to that. I hope somebody listening out there today might be moved to get involved. If you're a business owner, again, Brittany mentioned this, but a team can be very impactful as well. But whether it's a sponsorship or a team or just an individual donation or being involved the day of the walk, that's kind of what we're looking for. We're recording this on February 7th, so just a day before it's released, tomorrow on Thursday the 8th. So we've got a few months, but we're going to be working hard the next few months to make this the best walk that we've had here in our area. And so again, anybody out there can please consider you getting involved. So before I do my last thing, any last words before we close this episode out?
just remember that we're here for families 24/7, and that, we want to make sure that in the midst of what they're going through, they have a place to reach out to and get pointed in the right direction to the amazing resources in our area.
Okay, very good. I appreciate that, Christine. So again, I appreciate your time, guys. So I'm going to share my book recommendation, my quote of the week, and typically I'll try to be intentional about it. And one of the concepts that comes to mind when I think about organizations like the Alzheimer's Association and others is compassion and empathy. And so I looked up some books, but the one book that I read, it's been several years ago now, but there's a book. It's not directly related to Alzheimer's, but it's related to caregiving. And there's a book called Tuesdays with Morrie by Mitch Albom. And it's, again, I'm not going to give away all the details, but it's one, when you talk about life lessons and somebody's attitude as they're dealing with a disease, and then somebody who was able to visit with him literally every Tuesday for a period of time. And if you're a sports fan, you may know who Mitch Albom is, but I would encourage you to read that. It's a good one, in my opinion, on compassion and empathy. And I specifically picked a quote, but I'm going to kind of do what Brittany did. I decided to take a quote from a gentleman named John Connolly, and I'm paraphrasing it in my own words because I think it was more appropriate. But he's kind of said, with my paraphrasing, humanity in its essence is to work to understand others first and then serve them. There is nobility in compassion and beauty in empathy. I've just learned over time, seeking to understand others is is being empathetic, and that compassion to serve others. And you can't do what Brittany and Christine do without having that kind of on the tip of the spear in the things that you guys are faced with and you deal with every day. So it takes a special kind of person to be involved in an organization like that. So I'm fully aware of that. That's why I don't do it all the time. I'm not sure I have enough compassion, empathy to do it. But again, we're grateful for that. So to our listeners out there, thanks again for taking the time to listen to today's episode. Please continue to spread the word if you can about the podcast. And please don't hesitate to contact us here at our email address, which is podcast@gastonsgreat.com. We're always looking for suggestions for future podcast topics and guests. You can find the podcast and subscribe at the website, gastonsgreat.com, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. And please follow us on all our social media platforms. And please give us a good 5-star rating, as Naomi reminds me, that gets the podcast notice. Thanks again to Brittany and Christine for being our guests today. Gaston's Great is produced and brought to you by Naomi Hunt and Amy Anderson from GSM Services. I'm your host, Stephen Long. Thanks again for hanging out with us, and please keep coming back to hear more reasons why Gaston's great.